Does AI hold the keys to our future with Argo, with DevOps, with GitOps, and Kubernetes? And how do you keep track of what's even happening with that? There's so much noise in the AI world. We're going to want to get overloaded. So today in Argo Unpacked, we're going to be tackling how AI is transforming software delivery from GitOps to AIOps. And joining me will be, of course, my co-host, Robital, who has a deep history of working in AI. You've been in this space a lot longer than I have. But you have a lot of that experience coming from kind of the pre-LLM AI machine learning stuff. And of course, you've been ramping up on Argo and spending a lot of time with that. So we'll be excited to have your perspective here.
Awesome.
And then we're also joined by Idit, from founder of Solo.io. Solo's a super cool company. If you're not familiar with Solo, they make Glue, which is this fantastic mesh system for Kubernetes that is, I think, kind of light years ahead of most other service meshes that I've used. And I remember being pulled. I don't know if you knew this, Edith, but I remember the very first time I saw Solo.io was because a friend of mine who deep in the space does a lot of stuff. He said, there's a company you need to go see right now. And he took me over to the Solo booth. And I think that's where I first met you. That was a couple years ago.
A long time ago. Yeah.
But you've also been leading the way on getting AI into operations and getting it into this space where I think a year ago we talked about, hey, is AI going to be a big deal in DevOps? And everybody was only talking about hallucinations at the time. Everybody said it's an unsolvable problem. I think we've made a lot of progress there. But Edith, maybe you can help us orient our audience a little bit. For people that are familiar with AI primarily from ChatGPT and helping them write essays for their classes or their kids' classes, as may be the case, or just answering questions. What's happening in the ops space that is changing the game, and how is AI having an impact?
Yeah, so I think AI is making an impact on everything, and it's good because it's pretty amazing. I mean, the people who's using ChatGPT probably knows that this is a client, right? It's basically an agent, if you like, and eventually it's going, and behind the scene, there's this very clever LLM, right? It's basically making all the right compute and getting all the context and returning you the details.
That could be Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's all behind the scene. To the user, the UX is basically a chat box, right? Okay, so that's great. But now the question is this: if they have this like brilliant, smart brain somewhere, can we leverage it from other stuff? The answer is should. Why not, right? So if you think about what basically ChatGPT doing or any other kind of like idea, they're basically creating an interface. There is an agent that basically know how to take whatever the user is giving them, maybe even massage a little bit the prompt and giving it to the LLM, right? So they kind of like to be the LLM, kind of like wrap the LLM for a simple use case. So that's basically what's going on. Okay, so in the world of LLM or AI, I would say that there's basically three groups that are interesting, right? The first one is all the people that the clever, smart people is basically training the models, right? So that would be the PyTorch of the world. They're going, they will find it, and they will do all the smart thing. There is the concept of inference, which is basically, okay, now I already have that, smart model that I trained and tested, and I'm pretty happy. I need to run it somewhere, right? And I'm running it on GPU because it's always going to continue getting better. And therefore, that's what's called inference. And then the last and not important piece that is very, very happening right now is basically everything related to agent and tools, which is, again, how to consume it and basically make it something that other users can use, right? Not only the guys who know how to build the LLMs and the inference. So that's the three groups that you can see. Okay, so the thing that I think is more interesting for the ops world is that, again, is basically, I will argue, is basically the agent. How can we actually take that brilliant LLM and make it leverage for something that we can do, right? The guys who's doing platform engineering and cloud native. So that's kind of like how I think it's coming to there. I don't know if that's exactly what they're saying, but I hope that this is what you are.
No, that's a good. Yeah. Well, I think that lays out the basic foundation framework of like where these different tools are. I think one of the really cool things about AI, and I thought this was such an interesting observation. I was reading yesterday. There was a debate about if AI companies were overvalued because they were saying most of the benefit doesn't actually goes to end users, because if I'm consuming AI, if I'm becoming way more efficient, then my organization, we get a boost of 20%. But so far as those providers go, like the Chat GPTs, the Geminis, the Claudes, I don't know that they've Grok. I don't know that they've differentiated themselves really strongly from each other, because I've used multiple, and it feels like most of the work is in me getting a prompt to work well.
Exactly.
So being in the place where we're thinking about agents, which are things that are running, that can make decisions, that can that aren't waiting for a prompt necessarily. They kind of have a prompt of operating instructions of what they're going to do. I've used that with like Claude Code CLI, right? But that's and using like autopilot mode in Cursor, where it will go through and make iterations on your code.
Right.
But it seems like from an ops perspective, people are starting to use it for like monitoring their systems or looking for issues, or is there a different use case that you're seeing where they're way more effective because they're using agents to do this stuff?
So I think agent, like what we see is like agent can definitely make engineering more productive. That's for sure, right? We saw that. I think that at least for us, for instance, customer and for everybody, customer success is a big area that is always helpful, right? So, for instance, in Solar itself, a lot of our like we have our customers engineers, but we also have a bot that running there and suggesting them, a lot of stuff, which is very, very helpful. I think that, we're using it everywhere. We're using it on the go-to-market ops, right? So that's definitely something that we can enable in marketing. There's definitely some level, but there is also stuff that it's not really useful. I will say though, like, you said something about this article that I'm guessing a lot of people talking about it in terms of MIT, right? And how useful is that what you were talking about? How useful is ChatGPT actually? Yeah, is
Oh, I wasn't. I don't know that article, but that's,
yeah,
I mean,
because there
that's,
was a very interesting
yeah.
article that started a lot of conversations. So I assume that that's the one you're talking about. That basically said that there was two interesting articles. One of them about how highly valued AI companies versus how much is being invested in them, and then the other question, the other one was from MIT, was basically talked about people starting with AI and organization and how much actually it's beneficial for them. And you discovered that I think 5% of them is the only one who's actually leveraging the AI
Wow.
successfully and for their use case. I feel that honestly, like again, the LLM itself, as you said, it's not going to differentiate big time. It's going to get and improve and improve and improve and improve. So, that's for sure. The question is that how we bring it to user. And I do believe that there is a lot of startups that trying to build the agent for those user. And I personally actually don't think that I agree. Like I think there is a real problem there because it's just not really differentiation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to me right now to go and build Cursor, it's not a lot of hard. It's not a hard thing. Honestly, I can
Yeah.
even ask Cursor to build Cursor. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So where is your IP, right? As a company. And I think you see what's going on with Windself and all the rest. I will say though that I believe that, and this is what we see at least, is that company do need to use AI. They will write their own agent, and which is makes sense because you wanted to kind of like customize it to your use cases, something like incident agent. Everybody in our space is going to try to build one. They probably will build it themselves. So now the question is that what can we do in order to support them? And I think when we are coming is that, okay, they need to run this thing somewhere. They need to make sure that it's secure. They need to make sure that it's debugged, right? It's not that different than anything that's happening, right, in Kubernetes, for instance. So
Yeah.
we need to make sure that this is what we're doing. And that's, for instance, what Solo is focusing on. So I less care about what they're building. I will help them to build it. I have some example. I'm experiencing this one. But my business is not involved about building those agents because I think, honestly, eventually people, it's not that hard
Yeah.
to do it. And second of all, because all the magic, as you say, it's the LLM. And second of all, I think it should be very customized to the use case of the enterprise, which I think each of them has a different everything. And therefore, it will make sense for them to build it themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, from an ops perspective, the thing that so many people are excited about is agentic AI, right? Which is a new term for me. I guess it just means that it is AI that is running in an autonomous kind of way where it can go and do stuff without me necessarily prompting it in every moment. Is that true? Are people making progress with agentic AI in operations? Are you seeing that? Because like I
so
haven't seen a
100%.
ton of those people. I've seen people excited about it.
Oh, no, 100%. I can tell you, I know a lot of people is running it in production right now. So like, I mean, we can talk about our project, and I have a lot of visibility to the community, so I can tell you what people is doing. So 100% people doing it. I'm very excited about it. I think that when we're saying prompt, usually there's what called a user prompt, but there's the system prompt, right? So I think what agent mean is that someone before that, and it doesn't matter who, basically used the system prompt to create that first level, but it still always need a user prompt, right? I want to go, please go check what is wrong with my data, right? It needs to tell them what to do, right? So that's the user prompt. So what we see is that 100% people using it in our space, which is DevOps, kind of like platform engineering. They're using it for everything. They're using it right now for operation in, first of all, a lot of, like the first one that people starting with is the incident one. What's wrong? What's wrong in my Kubernetes? Why this pod cannot talk to this one? Why, my rollout failed, whatever, right? I mean, whatever you want, that's something that 100% is happening right now. I will say that not everybody is writing. A lot of people is just reading per se, in the point that I don't know how many actually going and say right now, and right now go and do this. What I do think is that in AI, it's very important, is the human in the loop. And therefore, what we do see is that someone can say something like, here's my deployment, make it an Argo rollout, do not apply it, right? And then he's looking at this and this, okay, now you can apply. You know what I mean? It's like, so we stopping all the time to make sure that it's very, very safe. And again, it's always risk, right? What environment you're running on,
Yeah, that use case of converting a rollout is one that you showed me at KubeCon London, and we were looking at together. And the other flow that someone would do is like, okay, well, like I can copy and paste a deployment into my LLM tool of choice and say, hey, can you make this into a rollout? And I can take the output and copy and paste it. And so I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting, or I could do that inside of Cursor, where I have a human in the loop where I'm specifying what I want, and it's going to go and figure it out. But it seems like there's an advantage in having this system that has access to Kubernetes directly, so it can go and test it or run it, or
can you hear me?
To Git. Is that really that big of an advantage over just copying and pasting using an LLM tool?
Yeah.
What makes
I think that they're
revolutionary? You know what I mean?
No, you're saying originality. I think that it's bringing. We can talk about it because it's way more. You hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel that. Okay. So first of all, in AI, let's understand what's happening today, because you asked that question. But let's go to where we actually can start. We can go all the way to, what's going on today in the organization versus what happened a few days ago. So can we talk? Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we hear you well. And actually, I'll address a comment. Somebody said, "Is this live or recorded?" So you can know it's live, my friends. It's live.
If I may, I just
I'm sorry. 1 second. Let me.
Okay. So then, meanwhile, I will.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ravital.
So it sounds like, Dan, you're basically describing my last 3 days where I was copying and pasting with ChatGPT, trying to build and add some hooks to my Argo tips project. And it's not that simple. It was pretty frustrating, I would say, and not even frustrating. I felt like it's really time and energy consuming. And we talked about Cursor, and I'm assuming that if we can take it to the next level, I think that I could basically spend like 3 hours instead of 3 days, for instance, and it's like very short amount of time. So let's say instead of 3 years, people can spend few weeks or months writing some apps and using those sophisticated tools. I think you're muted. Oh, we can't hear you then. Idit, I think.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
can you hear me now?
yeah, we're having
I can
fun with
You're cutting out and in.
Well, I was gonna say I had kind of a magic moment with this a little while ago when I was using Cursor, and I had been using Cursor for a little while where I would prompt it to do something or write some code. I could accept it, and I could go through it and do this loop. And then I accidentally one day enabled, I think it's called agent mode, where it went through and made changes, tested them, made more changes, tested them, and went through and just did this for like 10 minutes. And I came back and it had fully implemented a feature that I wanted. And I was like, oh, like that was 2 hours of me going back and forth of doing the manual thing. So that feels like a big, like, okay, I just saved a ton of time. That feels like it was really effective. So maybe that's one of those things that puts the adoption of kind of an agent model is what puts people in that 5% category who actually get value out of and are more actually efficient from using AI.
Yeah, for sure. Now you can hear me well. So
Yeah.
So yeah. So sorry, I heard some of your stuff, but I wanted to go back to what I saw in the ecosystem. So what I see in the ecosystem is this. Before that, when AI started, the people who basically got kind of like the keys in the organization was the AI team. So if before that, we, the platform engineering, were the cool guys who basically getting most of the budget and doing all the cool stuff, that didn't happen. Suddenly it went to a different team who was supposed to build that. And those teams started building it. And it was okay. Like they did it. They went and they chose maybe some framework, and those framework you need to understand is usually written by Python engineers, right? And a lot of the stuff that they're doing is actually very infrastructure stuff, bring context to the agent, and a lot of stuff that honestly it's like not that simple to do. And what we saw in the last maybe, I don't know, I will say maybe 3 months, is that what happened is that there wasn't a lot of result from these initiatives. And what happened suddenly in the organization, the key went back to us, to the platform engineering. And they basically came to the CIO came to the organization and said, guys, like bring them to production, right? We want to see some effort happening from AI. We want actually to see the investment there. And then what happened is that the guys who got now the key, which is us, kind of like saying, interesting, that's great, but how do we do that? Like, is that secure? How we like, is that the same? Can I just take the agent and basically run them on Kubernetes? And the answer is actually no. It's a little bit a different animal. So I wanted to kind of like highlight this one because it's very important. When we do in Kubernetes, the best thing that we did in Kubernetes is we basically abstract the application part, right? We don't care what is running in the container. Put whatever you want. What we care is that, we learn it how to deploy. We brought networking to this. We put it up. If it's down, we bring it up. In the nutshell, it's stateless. I don't care about what the state is. This is your responsibility, Mr. Application, right? I don't care about all of this. Even in the network, right? Usually when I need to, let's say that you have a gateway or something, if it's need to come from message, whatever, some client to a server, all we're looking at is the header, which is kind of like the address, right? That's giving us the let's call the shipment instruction. Where should I go? And if there is anything I need to do there, right? Okay, but that's that. But I didn't care about the context of the text on the message. I'm not looking at the body, I'm looking at the header. And that was really, really well when we work in Kubernetes and we work with the regular application. But now we're working with agent. And that's a good question to ask the same thing. And if you ask me, it's not. Platform, let's call it, and it's smart networking. And what do I mean when I'm saying it? Because now, when the message actually is going, a lot of those protocol, for instance, is not only on the header, they're actually also on the body. I care what is in the message. I care what we actually ship it. And I care about the application, because if it's application of agent, The most important thing for me is to bring the context. And I need to be able to bring the context for this specific session, for the something that maybe, I don't know, people want to know about me, right? So for instance, it's related to some global thing and the global thing in general about agents. So there is like 3 levels of memory that I need to make sure that this application is getting. And I need to figure out that if this application is closing, we do want to bring it up, but we want to bring the right context, which before that, again, that was on the application owner. And we wanted to make sure that it's observed. And because it's very not autonomic, we don't know what this agent doing. It could do everything.
Yeah.
How can we actually making sure that we know exactly what it's doing? So observability becoming even more important. We need to understand there is the agent talking to an agent. It's talking to a LLM. It's talking to a tool. We need to know all of this. We need to see the context. Again, the context is very important point.
Yeah, well, that means it sounds very memory intensive because when I make an API request and I'm like, oh, you know, do this action or whatever, usually those things are really short. We're talking about like, you know, less than like a couple of bytes almost, you know, I mean, it's nothing. But with this much context, we're talking about potentially hundreds of YAML files, logs. We're talking about status updates, events and stuff.
You're talking about state suddenly, which we never talked in Kubernetes space, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about, think about other stuff like what, like, you know, for instance, if you're looking, again, there's the network and the platform. So if we're talking on the network, for instance, think about what's going on. There's 3 use cases on the world of AI. The first one is we talked about, right? It's everything that's related to the agent, the LLM is, / agent is talking to the LLM, the agent is talking to an LLM. And that's an interesting, right? Because now you care about how much, you know, tokens, right? It's cost you. You need to make sure that you kind of like, right, limiting it. What if I'm sending something to this LLM, but it's down? I want to fall back to maybe other one. And there is a lot of work that I need to do there, work that it's actually very hard to do because it's not just go here and do the request and it's fine. It's also outside the internet usually. And then what we need to make sure is that if this is going there, then maybe it fell over to the other one and you need to give the context. There's a lot of complexity that before that we didn't care about. Yeah. Then if you're losing at the next level is the inference. And in the inference, in the beginning, I didn't, you know. Yeah, sorry.
Well, this is, I think, part of what gets a lot of people lost in AI is because we're working through a lot of the core concepts of like, oh, okay, like I've got an agent and like, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to talk to an LLM and it's going to bring context and it's going to make decisions. And it's like very quickly you're in the weeds and like I can see people just being like, wait, how does this all work? Like, what does it do? Like, what are we accomplishing? Because the problem space is actually fairly complex to implement this. It's not as simple as like, oh, I'll just have a bash script that runs every 5 minutes and I just ask it, how's my cluster doing? And take any action to fix errors that you see, because it doesn't have enough context and it's going to need so much information. And even if I am doing that, like I may not be operating on the right level because it's happening on the application logs and that's separate from Kubernetes. And it just becomes very complex. So like, I almost want to bring it back again. Like who do you see doing stuff that they're from an operation standpoint? Because from a coding standpoint, I think all of us have experience where we're like, okay, I'm using this to help me write some code or write some, write some configuration and stuff. That works really well. I get it totally. But from an operation standpoint of like, is it detecting errors? Is it explaining errors to people? Are there people that you see who are like, oh, like we cut our downtime 20% because we have an agent that runs that's going through and fixing stuff right when it happens and it catches it faster? Or is it just about it provides a recommendation to users who are operations people that can do stuff? Like what are the use cases that you see actually moving the needle in a real way? What is that 5% doing from an operations standpoint?
So I will tell you from the operation by I almost think everybody that I talk to, for sure, looking at incident report, like I have an outrage is right now. I have no clue what's happening. LLM tell me what's going on, right? The agent need to tell the incident agent need to tell me what to do. And that's something that every company that I know almost working on. And I think also the big cloud, right? I mean, Gemini is something like that, and Microsoft is working on something like that. That's like everybody's trying to do this.
Yeah, and we've
The
seen some
second
people
one that we
talking about
see is, as
bringing
you
this
said,
into
is
Argo,
with mesh.
and they've said like, okay,
Yeah,
if
so that's the
I'm going to put them
wait,
into
you're talking
Argo
about the
because they have that
incidents, or
additional context. Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I mean, basically every piece of your infrastructure, the LLM will be able to basically collect data and bring it to you.
So it's more about collecting data,
Yeah.
and you need the human in the loop in order to take actions, or it's acting upon, I don't know, you mentioned some mistakes that it fixes, or
Yeah.
so what is
Yeah. So I mean, think about how today incident looking in organization, right? I mean, usually there is a Slack and someone getting a ticket or some incident, I don't know, let's say from PagerDuty or ServiceNow. We know that there is a concept, I don't know, my network is down, I can't reach out, right? Or something like that. Usually some people jumping on this one and trying to debug. What does it mean, debug? Actually, like why Backstage was so popular, because exactly the problem with what we have in platform engineering is that there is a lot of context in a lot of places, and the hard stuff is to bring all of this together, right? So agent can do that very easily, right? So, I mean, I can show you something that we did, but basically we brought it all the way to the IDE. We basically connect with all the stuff that can bring us event, like maybe a GitOps or maybe, like ServiceNow or PagerDuty. And when the incident's coming, it's coming to me. And when I'm clicking, the agent's starting to go. And he's going first, he's going to go, as you said, to Argo, see what's going on. And then it will go to Argo. And then it's, to Prometheus, so Grafana, and take data. And then it will go to your Kubernetes log and it will look what's going on there. And then it will go, like, it's seriously going to do what people usually doing in order to do back that. And they're going places by places and bringing all of this, all the context back to this place, right? And you know how I said that everybody using Slack for the context. So imagine that the LLM itself can say, hey, do you want me to summarize to this channel? And you can click, and everything that's been done in the channel, people talking about it, is going back to the context of the agent, that it will be able to basically use it. So that's kind of like what we see, but that's the biggest one that we see that people looking right now. Everybody almost, like I can tell you,
So
the amount of people.
This is more about cyborg operations where you have human and machine partnering up than it is about just setting an autonomous system to go in.
No, theoretically, it can also tell you then, I think that the fix is this, right? We need to change that. You're using V1 when you need to use V2. And the nutshells, then what you can do is basically tell them, okay, fix that for me, right? Fix the rollout for me or something like that. And theoretically, it can do that, right? And go to the GitOps style and so on. But I mean, I don't know how people feeling comfortable about that. But definitely they want to know where the problem, and that's where it's helpful a lot. And again, I'm just comparing it to, we have a lot of customers. One of the customers that, huge bank, and I can tell you that, they had some outrage, and there was 150 people on the call on Friday night trying to figure out what's wrong in the system. And they have such a complex system going to the cloud, then back, and the cloud, and back, and cloud, and back. And it took almost forever to understand what's happening there. The people who's working there doesn't even know what's the flow for this, let alone, you know what I mean? So all I'm saying is that it's very, very, in my opinion, like that's when the LLM can do a miracle. So if you give him the right context, he can go and get you all the data. And honestly, in the nutshells, it's also killing Backstage, in my opinion, because if you think about what we try to solve Backstage is exactly to bring the content. It can do that for you, right? There's no, you don't need anymore like this.
Well,
it's very complex.
That's probably the right place to introduce model context protocol to the conversation. Satya of Microsoft shared, I think, way back in the AI days, that is 6 months ago, in the hinterlands of AI age, Satya shared, and he said, MCP or no? And I think everybody said MCP forever and said it was a big deal. So for the people that are new in the audience, MCP is Model Context Protocol, and its whole purpose is basically to provide context. And I think, Edith, the way you explained it to me is that it's like this is doing what APIs did for AI. What APIs did for programming, 20 years ago. This is MCPs are doing that for AI. Is that about right?
Yeah, so I mean, think about it. Eventually, the LLM is like you need to give it the context. So now it can do the brain, right? It can think. It can come with a workflow of here's what I should do, but then you need to do it. I didn't know how to do it, right? How does he know how to do it? So you need the tools to tell him, let's say that he does know that he need to change that. How can he do that, right? So you need something will be able to go and do that. So that's something is tools. It's basically the tools, or MCP is the protocol that is there chosen. And there is, that's probably the most fuzzy word that you can imagine right now. Everywhere. It started back then by Anthropic. And Anthropic basically did it for usually people who's running on desktop. And they understood that this LLM is going to need ability to go and leverage some other API, as you call, which is MCP. And what happened is that, that was very to a desktop kind of like unit. Those guys are not a networking guy. It was very, very, very clear from this fact. So there was a lot. So though it's adopted very aggressively, no one in the enterprise world can actually adopt it. And this is why, there's a huge gap there. And though that they're changing a bit, it's still way more different. And when we talked before that, we talked about the header and the body, for instance, in the messaging. So I can tell you that a lot of this is actually done in the body, which is something that usually the regular proxies are not really used to know how to work, or doing a lot of manipulation there.
So this is why so your team launched Kate's agent, which you're sporting. For those that are listening, Edith's got a nice sweatshirt on with the logo that she's rocking. Kagent,
get one too.
yeah, we should. Kagent is this MCP hub.
No. It's not exactly that. Maybe let me explain you. So there's two projects that Solar is working on right now. The first one is K-Agent. That's the first one we put there. And the idea was actually really simple. I mean, as we said, there is a difference between the application that we were running until now to an application that are agentic application. There is context. You care about what running inside the container. And therefore, if you want to bring it to Kubernetes, there is a lot of work that you will need to do. So the question was, how can we make it easier? How can we bring AI to Kubernetes? So that's very a platform game. And the idea is very, very simple. Can we actually take Kubernetes, make you very easily build agent for it in a declarative way? Since then we evolved, there is more than just declarative. And then basically simply make sure that you will be able to run it. So how can you run an agent in declarative way? There's two things in agent. There is a prompt and there is tools, MCP tools. So what we did in that project, we said, okay, we built this framework that is basically wrapping a different framework, but that we brought to run on Kubernetes. So we started with Autogen, but we actually changed it to ADK from Google. And basically what you need to give me is the prompt, which is basically a language of human, like I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And in order to do this, I want to give you a list of MCP to use, right? That's how you're writing agent. What are those tools? Those are MCP tools. So we built that framework, but because we knew that we're building it for people like us, and this is what we're doing, we put a lot of empathy of let's build those tools and those agents that focusing for DevOps and platform engineering. So for instance, one of the things that we did, we built an MCP tool for Argo, right, rollout and so on. And then we build one for Cilium and for ST and for, K gateway, which is a gateway that we wrote, and so on and so on and so on. And we give in Prometheus and Grafana and a lot of MCP tool that now you can very easily build an agent that will be able to consume those tools and do what you want. And what you want is whatever you want, right? And seriously, in 2 seconds, you're up. You're just writing, I want you to go to Argo, and I want you to do this and this and this and this. Here's the Argo tool. Here's whatever, the metrics, Grafana tool. Here's what I want you to do, is going and doing it. So it's pretty awesome. So this is the K agent infrastructure thing. And that's a open source project in the CNCF, actually. We donated it. That has all the ability to basically bring AI to Kubernetes, run agent in Kubernetes, help you build it, maybe deploy you. And also it's coming with some cool toolkit from the staff. That's the one thing that Solo is doing. The second thing is a networking company. We also basically have something called Agent Gateway, which is a proxy in Rust that we wrote from down up, because the current proxy that exists today in the market are not expert in looking again inside, which is basically the body. They are very good to manipulate headers, and it's almost impossible to change them to do that. It's just a lot of work. You need to basically rewrite them. So we built in Rust a proxy that focusing on AI use cases from the get-go. And it's embedded already. It knows how to talk A2A, MCP, and bring the pieces that missing in MCP, like the security, for instance, of their observability, and so on and so on. So those are the two projects, if it makes sense.
So the second project, what's the URL for that? Because I was looking for it.
Yeah, it's agentgateway.dev. And actually, funny enough, today, we actually had a big announcement with the Linux Foundation that we basically, when we announced, when we started with this, we had a lot of attention from a lot of companies, big companies, like Dell and Akamai, and who were interested in basically join that project, but wanted to make sure that there is an open government. So they asked us to donate it somewhere. And the idea was to donate it, to the right place. And we felt that the right place is actually the Linux Foundation. So today, the Linux Foundation announced it as part of their, they're close to A2A. We basically donate the agent gateway to the Linux Foundation with a lot of support from a lot of great companies like CoreWeaves and Dell and T-Mobile and UBS and so on, and Microsoft and so on. So it's pretty powerful.
I would have thought that I could have just, thrown up an Nginx proxy and called it a day. But you're saying that wouldn't work well, because this is actually doing a lot more.
It's doing way more. And it's basically putting the three use cases that usually you're doing for AI for citizen. And it would be very hard, if almost impossible, to do this in the regular proxy today, like Nginx or Envoy even, right? And again, we expert in Envoy. So the first thing that we did is try to put it in Envoy. And I can tell you that it just, you can go and look. There is a case open for the Envoy repository for a long time. It's just, you basically, those proxy has a very opinionated architecture that making assumption, for instance, something going in, something go out. So it's very hard to change the basic foundation in order to support the use case for AI, specifically MCP, because in MCP, you probably want to aggregate the tools, and you probably want to only show the tool that's relevant to the specific agent versus show all this pool of, a lot of tools. So that's something, for instance, is almost impossible to make in something.
So is that part of the way that you're solving security, is by using the proxy to help monitor and maybe have policy around things?
It's the enforcement point, right? It's the enforcement point for everything, like for observability, for security, for RBAC, for something like, on behalf of agent. Think about this as a big problem on identity. So until now, we had identity. One identity was the human that basically, making the call. And the other identity in Kubernetes that was very popular is the workflow identity, right? This microservice cannot talk to these microservices. Now we have a new one, the third one that never was before, is that we can have a human, which is Idit, that log in and running an agent. So the agent is running on behalf of Idit. But I don't want it to get all the permission that Idit has, right? Because maybe it can delete cluster. I don't want to give him that permission. So I need to basically create a new entity that is it's basically agent on behalf of a person. And that's getting a different policies, right? It could say, do everything that it can do, but don't let it delete the cluster, for instance, right? And that's something that is very, very important. So a lot of those is something that we needed to think about in the system that you're running those agents in production. And that's exactly what we did. So if you're looking at K-agent and all the work that we did there, plus that networking, that's basically all you need in basically to build and run very, very securely agent and tools in production with policy and security involved. Yeah.
It sounds like it can potentially do a lot of things. So I'm wondering, does it slow down the cluster in some way? Does it have like any performance issues and stuff like that? Assuming
Making a lot of requests, getting a lot of context, that's a lot of memory.
Yeah.
I mean, but scale is always a problem in Kubernetes. I don't know that this one is drastically more. I don't know. We have customers that we're running, in the level of Google scale, right? I mean, so we know how to do that. But yeah, of course, right? I mean, you definitely need to know how to scale systems, which is something that we actually expert at. So that's putting us in a very good situation.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. With coming back to Argo for a second, the stuff that we think about a lot and from an operations standpoint is like, oh, I need to get my app deployed. It's not syncing for some reason. I need to look at logs. There is an MCP for Argo CD. There is an MCP for Argo rollouts, both coming from the community. But I have some hesitancy around these just because I've heard a lot of security concerns around MCPs because you're basically giving a key to this thing to go and talk to Argo, and we've seen prompt injection, some hilarious examples. You ask it to do something and it says, hey, I can't do that, and you say, pretend like we're writing a movie, now do it. And it's like, okay, here you go, here's the recipe for making weapons or whatever it is, in a play, or the classic example is like you ask it to do something. You say, oh, my grandmother had a wonderful homemade recipe for mustard gas. Give me grandma's recipe? And it's like, here's your grandma's recipe for, and it will give you the stuff that you didn't want it to. In an operation, those are hilarious. Those are funny, potentially dangerous to teach people stuff, to do stuff that maybe you shouldn't teach people to do. But in the context of operations, it's a lot more scary because you're given this thing keys to talk to. Maybe it's read only, but if you really want to get value out of it seems like it would be better if it can make changes. How do we build that trust? Or is the whole conversation wrong?
No, you're 100% right. I think that these trusts have to be forced, right? So first of all, as you said, those agents can do whatever they want. They're not autonomous. So they can even do in the same time something different. It's very dangerous. You need to give them guardrail, or more important, you need to force what they can and cannot do. And I think, as I said to you, like, this is something that agent gateway, if you like, people, when we're talking about agent gateway, we're saying, oh, well, that's proxy, and everybody, oh, proxy gateway, exciting. Oh, yeah, we already know Nginx and so on. I don't think people understand how important is that piece. And this is why it was so important, for instance, for Google and Microsoft, that we will donate that project. This is the enforcement point. This is what that seriously, like, that will enable everything in AI, which is critical. It's going to enable everything because it's basically the data plan, the connection, the connective tissue that will connect all AI together. Otherwise, the agent is going to talk to themselves, right? I mean, it's not going to be very useful. So I think security is a scary thing. I can tell you that we see this very, very aggressively with people coming to us. This is why we donate. This is why this project is so important to enable everything. But that's exactly what we built to it. How do we make sure that, they can do it, what they can do? Would they even, maybe the agent could not go to the MCP tool. How do we make sure that it's not going basically directly to the MCP tool and doing whatever we want? All of this stuff is something that we build into because we have to, right? I mean, how do you make sure, so maybe you're using something like STO, right? Which is, as a company, this is what we're selling, right? Is STO and gateways. I mean, you need to make sure that everything will be forced by this enforcement point, which is the gateway. How do you do that, right? So that's exactly the stuff that we're working on. That's exactly the stuff that we're doing, and that's what the stuff that we're donating to the community right now, because we understand it's not a thing for us; it's everybody will it. Like,
but isn't that, I mean, like, that's kind of like the opposite of the way we usually approach stuff, where it's like, yeah, you have a firewall as like a last line of defense, but like, you actually need to fix the MCP itself to make sure that it's not leaking stuff. So you have a last line of defense, but don't we need to fix like the models, the MCPs themselves to make them to have some sort of logic there that is keeping me from blowing everything up?
But again, it's exactly the question in service mesh that we asked before. Should we put it in the application and basically make sure that all the security and everything will live in the application, and then we will trust each of those, application owners to basically put the stuff that we're looking for, all those operation stuff inside their application? We can, but we shouldn't. Exactly like we didn't do for the gateway or the mesh. What we should do is ask the platform engineer to take ownership and do the stuff that we know how to do, protect the network, figure out what they can and cannot do, make sure that we guard well them. They're going somewhere and they're exposing something, we can block them, right? So we have this stuff, right? We know data loss prevention, WAF, like we have all those tools. We shouldn't reinvent them. We just need to figure out how we should massage them to work on that context. So maybe, for instance, if I'm doing red limiting, usually I did red limiting in the context of the request. Now we'll do it in the context of the token, for instance, right? But we need to figure out those stuff, and that's exactly the work that's always done. Is basically understand that, but also be, we are big in networking, but forget about it. You just need to deploy those agents. How do you do that? How do you do this in a simple way? How do you make people be able to run it in a place that is safe and basically will operate as a runtime to those agents? So
yeah. Well, to our audience, we've got a few more minutes left. And so if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. We're watching the chat, and you're welcome to address them to Idit directly. Obviously she's really deep in this space and spends a lot of time on it. I've more of playing a little bit here and there. And I am anxious to have this, super powered AI flow where I'm way more effective. And I definitely get it when I'm writing software. It helps me write software more quickly, and test more quickly and stuff like that, or debug. I get those things. But this next stage, the agentic age, from an operations standpoint, I can see this having a huge impact on how quickly people are resolving issues, helping prevent issues. From within Octopus Deploy, we're looking at how we can leverage these things in preventative ways, figuring out how risky a deployment is, that kind of thing. But we can't sacrifice security for that stuff. And so having something like this tool that's helping me, like Agent Gateway, that can help me kind of enforce that on a global level seems really valuable. Where do you think that most people, let's take Argo users, for example, where do you think most people should be thinking about implementing AI to make themselves more effective? What would you say the next? I'm an average Argo CD admin. I've got a couple hundred users. I've got thousands of applications. I've got a half dozen Kubernetes clusters. I'm going through prod. I'm going through staging. Is there a place that you would point me to be like, hey, if you want to be more effective, here's some AI stuff that you should be using, and it'll make you move more quickly? What would you say my next step should be?
So I'm thinking about K-Agent, right? I mean, the way I'm looking at...
Or we lost your audio.
Can you hear me? No.
Yes, I can hear you.
No, you can hear her. I just can't hear you. All right.
Okay.
Well,
I can hear both of you.
Just me.
I'm the proxy here.
So can you hear me now then? No, I think you can't. But I mean, maybe I will answer his question until he's getting back. But I will say that the way I'm looking at, for instance, something like K-Agent is seriously like, it's like a kind of like a buddy that can be next to you and help you. So let's say right now I'm starting, yes, I'm already a developer in Argo, but now I also wanted to learn, I don't know, networking a little bit better, or Kubernetes a little bit better, or I don't know, do something with logging. I'm just saying, right? I mean, I feel that basically this thing can be the UI for everything. This can basically be the user experience of starting with a project in everywhere. And the point that you have a PAL, which is that LLM, and it can actually help you, right? It can come and say to you, hey, It's like, what do you want to do? And then you tell him, oh, I really want to do this. And he said, oh, no problem. Here's how we're going to do this. And it's doing it with you. So I feel that the experience and on-ramp of complex projects are very, very simple. So it's basically, even if you are only, let's say, an Argo engineer, now it will enable you to do so much more and do more stuff. So I really, really feel that this is one a huge advantage of just the on-ramp is faster, the learning curve is faster. You feel that you have another one who's experienced next to you. So I think that will help you to leverage that quite a lot.
Okay, Dan, can you hear Idit? Or not yet?
Can you hear me? No?
I can hear you. I think that Dan cannot hear both of us. So I actually have two questions for you, Idit.
Yes.
I'll that time. So first of all, Dan, you're muted. I think no, you're not. We can't hear. Or okay. So Idit, you mentioned before that you can use Kagent and like it can use some permissions that you have, but you want to basically maybe define, for instance, that it cannot delete resources.
Right.
From your experience, you don't have to mention companies or stuff like that, but were there some cases where it was misused and resources were deleted, or any other catastrophe happened?
So I will tell you, not about catastrophe, but I will tell you this one. I personally never saw in my life what's happening right now with Kagent. And again, I'm in this space for a long time. I think maybe the Docker and Kubernetes kind of like high is where I saw it before. I'm old, so I saw it. So if a thing or two, and I can tell you that what I'm seeing right now is something that I never saw it before. Companies coming to us and basically saying, please give us the product now. We need it. Like, you have to help us with this. Please just come, bring your resources and help us. And I'm talking to you on the level of the CIO. It's that high. Like, everybody's coming, everybody interesting in this. That means they're calling my salespeople, which has never happened before. We are very down up kind of like company. And basically just please, like, give it to us tomorrow. Like, they really need it. So I think that everybody understands when you're looking at a protocol like MCP, and I think someone asked about A2A. A2A is the communication between the agent to agent. I can tell you that when they're looking at this, they need to, it's really important to them to know that it's secure. They can run it in production. The CISO will not give it to them. And they need to make sure that when you're putting an MCP server, or when you're doing anything, it has to be secure, because as you said, there's permission involved. And that's like the first thing that people started with. The amount of people right now coming to us and said, hey, we need agent gateway because MCP, we're running MCP initiative inside of the organization. We're doing it. It's unbelievable. Same thing for agent. We have those agents. We have this incident agent. We want to run it. We need your help, right? How do we make sure that it's not going to go crazy and delete our infrastructure, right? And that's something that is very scary. So I don't think that it's happening right now before. You know why? Because there's no way they will get permission for this. Right now, no one will run it in production without those stuff.
Okay.
So it's just never going to happen. But in the other side, everything we're building becoming such an important piece, right? It's such a critical piece in the infrastructure that no one will run AI without, which again, it's awesome, right? But I mean, that's something that is extremely important.
Okay. And you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, this has been a super interesting discussion, and I think there's definitely like a good carrot here for people to go and start playing with some of these tools. Kagent is a really good place to start. I need to spend some time with it myself. Agent Gateways got me interested, and then taking advantage of that. On a kind of a side note, Solo, you launched Solo 7-8 years ago now, and have been very successful. I've watched Solo with a lot of interest, seen it grow and seen the community embrace it, and like Glue, I like the tools that you guys have put out and the contributions you've done to both the CNCF and these other stuff's great. For your company, have you noticed your engineering and your operations being way more effective, or what's the step change since your team has adopted AI internally in your pace of development, in your reliability? What are the impacts you've seen?
Oh yeah, awesome. Like, I mean, as I said to you, we have that in almost any division that we are using. Like, yes, of course, engineering, like everybody else, but I can tell you that we also have it in the level of, like as I said, customer success for sure. That help us hire less. And you need to understand we have over 200 customers running in production environment, the biggest that you can probably imagine, right?
Yeah.
So customer success is something that is very important and dear to our heart. And everything that's related to how we're working in terms of our go-to-market, everything that our salespeople are using is automated and AI,
Wow.
even which leads they are getting and everything. So like all that core system is very heavily done by AI. So 100%, but honestly, so a lot of those pieces is something that we're doing. And
Did you
yes,
just
I
tell
mean,
people? Did you just tell the whole company, everybody go adopt AI
no,
and
honestly, like,
say AI,
Solo is
AI, AI, or what?
innovators.
What got them to do it? Because if you're doing it in sales, you're doing it in marketing, you're doing it in the whole company. What got people interested to go and do it? Did it just happen organically?
Yeah, no, hire the right people. I have an amazing team, honestly. Like everybody's working in Solo. It's insanely solid people. Like our engineer came from Google and Red Hat and all these great places. And they're hungry. Like that's the culture of Solo, learning, want to adopt the new thing and push the
Mm.
boundaries. So honestly, it's coming all over the place. I didn't need to push anything. It's coming, from all of us together. Of course, I'm also was the one who's put like it was, but there's no need to push a lot. No,
In other words, your team was just like already looking at AI, already excited about it and jumping into it and finding
Yeah,
opportunities. Okay.
100%. And this is how I expect them to be. As I said,
Yeah.
in Solo, like we have a very, very innovative team, and everywhere they can, they immediately look at this as, oh, that's the new thing. Let's figure out what we can do from it. So 100%. And yeah, and I can tell you like it's definitely like I mean we definitely like we are so efficient. Like if you're looking at our magic number, I mean we are so efficient. We can go if we want to, we can basically break even. A lot because of how we are operating as a company. So 100%.
Very cool. Yeah, this is an interesting discussion. This is such a cool space to watch. I'm excited to see what else people are building, and tools like Cajun, Agent Gateway. These are things that are going to make it easier for Argo projects and potentially implement cool tools that are going to help people be successful. Right now, we've been building some of like the extension pathways within Argo so that if people want to add a UI widget, they could pass context with it. They could. Obviously, with the MCP that's been contributed by the community, that's an opportunity. And then just what we're doing with an Octopus, the more that these tools mature, the more we can take advantage of them, the more that's going to have downstream effects for everybody. It's going to be really interesting to see what the economy even looks like in 10 years as you see all these companies becoming more efficient and doing more quickly. The last kind of side note that I would add, and love to hear your feedback on this. My feeling, I'm focused on CD, continuous delivery, GitOps, deploying software, how I can help companies deploy software. That's like the Argo world. And I look at what's happening with AI, and I think companies are going to deploy a lot more frequently. And AI, in my experience, it's not necessarily better in terms of quality than like a really great engineer, but it's just way faster. And so if I'm deploying more frequently, but I have a similar level of failures, a percentage of failures, let's say I'm deploying, 20 times a week and I have a failure rate of 20%. So I'm going to experience a failure, I shouldn't have given exact numbers, but imagine I experience one failure a week. If I start deploying 5 times more often, I now experience a failure every day. And so having great tooling like GitOps and Argo and Octopus, this feels super, super important to me right now. So this is like where I'm focusing my energy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it sounds like from your experience, have you seen a similar failure rate as you've ramped up? And so you have more frequent failures, Or
I
do you
don't
think
think,
more you
yeah,
need?
I don't think, to be honest, right now, I think the real problem right now, definitely in the Kubernetes space, is that not a lot of people wanted to adopt AI, but they can't, right? There is this backup. So are we
Yeah.
running right now more AI than we did in the beginning? No, I mean, not at
Whoa.
all, actually, right? I will say that that's what happened, and that's when it happened. A lot of interesting problems will have, right? But
Yeah.
right now, I feel that people are still like, I really just need to build this agent easily, put it in this platform, and make sure that it's not taking all my environment down. So how do you do that? And I think that that's where people are. And then once that will happen and that will be enabled, the hope is that a lot of agents will come there, right? And then the deployment will be way harder. And yeah, so I mean, I don't think that, as I said to you, I think that what we see though, and again, like, you guys need to join the community. So we have a Discord for K Agent and Agent Gateway. We seriously need to go there specifically for K Agent. This community is so vibing that it's unbelievable. Like the
We
amount of
threw,
people that
yeah,
join.
we threw the links to the different websites in the in the chat, and I did see that on those there's a big call to action that's like join the community, and you can jump right in. You get an invite into Discord and can start chatting with people. Super exciting. Well, I think we've unpacked a lot of AI. We're looking forward. It sounds like, if for everybody who's listening, who's thinking, man, the last year there's been so much AI news, I can't keep up with it. Based on what, Idit, you're telling us, next year is going to be a 100x harder to keep up with, because there'll be so much more going on
Well, but it's also
with
about
everybody
cleaning
building
up
on
stuff.
these tools. Yeah.
Right. But it's, it's like in the Kubernetes boards when we started, there was so many stuff, right? But eventually the winners being declared, and then it's easier, right? So I believe that the same thing will happen with AI, specifically with AI, because it's so expensive. So I think there is right now, there was a lot of innovation about a lot of small company that was created. A lot of them will run out of money because it's expensive.
There's a
And therefore,
fortune
eventually there will be the clear winner who will get most of the market. So I will argue that I still believe that it's going to be actually easier to catch up, because the clear winner will be there. In my opinion, it's just my guess, right? I don't know.
Awesome. Okay. Fun discussion. Thank you for that. Rivital, anything we need to close out, business we need to close out with?
Definitely. So Idit, thank you very much. That was super fascinating. I just want to call out, here's our LinkedIn link. Feel free to follow us. Probably I will process this fascinating discussion into a lot of shorts and videos and social posts. So stay tuned. We have lots of shorts from previous episodes as well on our YouTube channel. And of course, if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, everything that is processed here will be there and will be sent. And yeah, that's basically
Our next
it.
episode is September 8th. We're going to be talking about using Image Updater. Jan, an Argo CD maintainer, is going to be joining us. Jan Fisher, brilliant guy. So we'll have that discussion.
We had a bunch of requests from the audience to do a session about Image Updater. So in 2 weeks. Yes.
Cool.
In 2 weeks,
all right.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And Idit, I'll look forward to seeing you in KubeCon Atlanta.
Yes.
And I'll chase you down and say hello, as I always try to do. But thanks so much for all the work. Super exciting what Solo is doing. And I feel like I get a little bit of credit, because people will tell me what you're doing. And I'm like, I actually know Idit. And they'll be like, you know Idit? Can you introduce me? Can you give me an autograph? So continue to rock star status. It's awesome.
Yeah. But honestly, like, we're just having a lot of fun, and thank you for the opportunity to talk here. And as I said, we're going here, so it's a lot of fun to talk together.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great week. Thanks for joining Argo Unpacked.
Bye.